I'm here with Noble Ackerson, co-founder of Byte and Atom Research. We're at GNRT. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Yeah.
Let's talk about GNRT for a moment, because this is the very first one, and it's an exciting day. What do you think of it so far?
So far, so good. I think what Pete and the organizers are doing here is very timely. There's a lot of talk about this changing paradigm, this AI thing that everyone keeps yapping about. And I think that, without, a thorough understanding of what it is, why it's important, how it works, I believe we then start using tools without the foundations and actual knowledge on how to use it effectively, because as with any tool, you have the promise and the perils, right? Like with any tool, you can have, the fire burning down a village versus fire warming the village, right? So I really commend, the organizers and the audience, as well as these brilliant instructors that have been brought together here just to exchange ideas and how to see how we can tame this shoggoth we call AI and make it useful in our daily lives. Yeah.
You've had a very interesting experience with AI. Just you as yourself. And I am bringing up what was very shocking when I heard about it is, you, and I don't know how you got to that point. How did you find out that AI thought that you were no longer alive?
Wow, yeah, good research. Wow. So let's take us back maybe a few years. ChatGPT had just launched, 2023 February or January. As with any egocentric individual, I ego surfed, and I actually learned that term not too long ago.
Tell me about me.
Ego surfing is just Googling your name, but I can't use the word Google on ChatGPT, so ego surfing it is. And so I just said, tell me what do you know about Noble Ackerson? And it made up this, if you had no idea who I was, you would believe that this person was a former startup founder that sold a company, started a philanthropy in West Africa, Ghana, and then unfortunately passed away, went to MIT and all that stuff. Now, it hallucinated, right? It made up facts, it confabulated things based on how this model was trained. It had some facts about me right. I am by heritage Ghanaian. So if you look at it, you can actually be very convinced. So these are the perils that I was sort of alluding to earlier, is like if you're not paying close attention or you're not prompting it well, or speaking or trying to derive context, or giving it context so you can derive factual information, then you're basically shooting yourself in the foot. These tools are not information stores, right? And that's where that article that I wrote came from. And so, yes, I found out that I'd passed away. I lived a great life.
So I saw what it had wrote, and I was like, well, this do you all of a sudden feel like, well, I need to do X, Y, and Z now, apparently?
That's exactly what began my sort of thing. I posted this article on Towards Data Science, which toward TDS, we call it, is one of the premier data science publications on Medium and other internet blogging sites and stuff like that. And they were gracious to carry this article. The number one piece of feedback that I got was, well, what do we do about it? How do we leverage the strengths and the promise of this tool while understanding how to get around? I said tame the shoggoth earlier. Is just my weird way to say this thing is extremely powerful. How do we use the tools? And unfortunately, the answer to that meant I had to study. I had to go in and sort of take some of the lessons that I'd learned from traditional machine learning, from product strategy and product management, engineering management, bring that all together, better understand what the new world of natural language understanding and processing was, because everything that I'd learned before, you should throw that out
So
and
it's like
start
you
all
went
over.
through a big education. This led you down a huge
100,
path.
100%.
And now you're doing a lot of the educating for
That's,
others.
That's right. That's right. And then I've always been, first understand, right? I normally go deep into a subject. I've been doing this for years. I just, this past week, joined the Google Developers Experts Program again, this time under AI. But I was a previous GDE for product strategy, and that was another field that I had to just dive deep in because it benefits me professionally, and it also benefits the community if I know enough to sort of help those coming up. And so I did the same thing. I just rinse and repeat with AI. And it's been rewarding because I've been able to sort of bridge new areas of this AI thing that I don't believe has gotten enough attention.
Yeah, and I do want to have you tell me a little bit more about like the theme of your work, like C1, Udacity. So tell me about how you're using education in those areas.
Right. Correlation 1, let's sort of, for those who may not know what C1 is, it's a company called Correlation 1, and they basically are a professional development company. They basically train Amazon warehouse workers in fields of data science and the like. I call it unofficially the LinkedIn for the linked out. So these are people that may have, spent an unfortunate amount of time in prisons and want to sort of learn new skills. And so my job as their lead generative AI instructor is to help create content and or train individuals with Correlation 1. Udacity is actually a more well-known company. They are a MOOC, or I don't even know what MOOC means, but it's an online education system, also professional development. A lot of people who've heard of Coursera or Udemy or Maven. Udacity is one of many. They just got acquired by Accenture recently.
And I said there's so many different names and different, even just different terminology in this. That's an
right.
education
That's
as well
an education
for people.
as well. It's amazing. So yes, I'm the lead instructor, currently the lead instructor for the AI Product Manager Nano degree, which is their thing to certify aspiring analysts and product managers, or even engineering managers or product practitioners looking to get into this field. And again, it's just a matter of I learn by teaching, and I teach and learn from the audience. So it's almost like this symbiotic relationship with knowledge that I really enjoy doing.
And I'm going to ask you about vibe coding because
Vibe coding.
I was looking this up, and the thing is, like, sometimes we understand certain, what we're doing. We're like, oh, I'm doing this, but we don't know that there's a formal name for it.
Right.
So vibe coding is kind of a newer term that I'm hearing all of a sudden. So first of all, for people who are kind of new to the space, what does it mean, and how should it be used?
Very good question. A former OpenAI, probably one of their co-founders, Andrej Karpathy of Tesla. He actually was part of the self-driving car team at Tesla. He has since retired from OpenAI and just dedicates his life to teaching, which is the common theme here, it looks like. And in one of his famous, now, I guess it's a meme post, he wrote, there's a new kind of coding, and we call it vibe coding. It's just speaking to an AI, and out comes the code and your wish. I want to build, you give it an outcome and it builds it for you. It's all about the vibes and less about the code. Now I have a hot take on that though.
Okay.
AI it's almost like a paradox. AI assisted coding is very powerful. Actually, I use vibe coding, I guess. I hate the term, but I love being able to sort of bounce off ideas and actually have the AI sometimes even deal with the boilerplate stuff that I hate doing. I just want to get to the coding part. I don't want to be setting up my machine, for example.
Right.
So when Andre sort of mentioned this, it just blew up, and now we hear vibe coding all the time. What I fear that it sort of communicates is sort of a lack of rigor and testing and understanding of what your code or how you got to that outcome. And I think that is something that needs to be addressed. I call what I do with AI-assisted coding ephemeral programming. mostly because I expect to get a concept in my head out interactively on a browser, if that's what I'm building, just to validate or repudiate that thing that keeps on yelling at me in my mind that this was possible. So it's almost like rapid proof of concepts that you can get. And then we hand it off to smarter people than me, hopefully, or do that hard work in making sure that the code is tested, assuming that a human at the end of the day is going to interact with the thing. You don't want to hurt anyone, right? So that's my hot
I do want to
take.
bring that up too, like responsible innovation
Right.
is something that you focus on
Right.
quite a bit. What does that look like exactly when, especially in this day and age when it seems like there's a new innovation every minute?
Right. This is such a broad question, but I can sort of just boil it down to data. Most of the things that I've just talked about with vibe coding or building software with AI hovers around some sort of data. Even if you're not bringing data to the table, you are at least working with a transformation of data that someone somewhere had turned into a model and given it to you, and you think this thing is amazing, right? And so data trust is, so in my mind, a pillar of responsible innovation. There's so many ways to slice and dice that. I'll give you a couple. There's bias. I gave one of my lessons on the AI product nano degree at Udacity was about evaluating models that and how to do that through offline evaluations and online evaluations. Basically saying that how do you know that the model is behaving in a way that is fair to everyone that is using it. An example that I gave, because I love mangoes, was a mango store that you may not want to emote geographical bias. And so if I said, tell me, if a user came to my site and asked, tell me about mangoes from Australia, you don't want the model to just spit out to them, mangoes from Australia are often bitter and not as good as the American mangoes, as a silly example.
Yeah.
It may not be, whenever I say bias, people think, other things. It's just
like it's exerting an opinion in there.
100%. And maybe for your business needs, you don't want to detract the buyer from buying an Australian mango. And again, I don't think, we don't want bias. We want to fight bias with bias. We want to be able to make this thing as neutral as possible because people might have different views, for example. So bias is a pillar of data trust. Privacy, also the data, being able to make sure that we're respecting a user's expectations of how data is used. If you're an artist, I'm at least given attribution. That's a pillar of responsible innovation as well, meaning I provide the context, how is your data used, how long it's used, the retention, does it cross borders? If you're in the EU, that really, really matters.
Right.
And then the choice, for me to be able to revoke consent is very important and extremely difficult with AI because it's already it's a transformed data. So there's machine forgetting, I believe, is in research that we won't get into.
Obviously, there's so many different terms, right? So I've not even heard of machine forgetting before.
Machine learning and then machine
right,
forgetting.
Of course there would be that. So
Right.
this is so fascinating, and on a day like today where people are coming in, they're focusing on upskilling, they're focusing on learning about all these different systems from people who are just in it. What are you hoping that tomorrow people who've attended this that they're kind of waking up and still thinking about?
Very good question. I'm hoping that individuals leave here with the art of the possible. I'm sure I'm going to leave, I would speak for me, I'm going to leave this space learning something that I didn't even know was possible with these tools. I would hope people leave here and I leave here with new ways to make sure that the tools that we're building go to further a better society for everyone, if even it's within a corporate environment. We build our tools, and thereafter our tools build us, right? And that's a quote that I sort of live by. And so I'm hoping that not only do we learn new things, but we also learn how to deliver these new things or new techniques responsibly while we do so.
Noble, thank you so much.
Thank you.